Fun Ideas Productions presents the Fun Ideas Podcast.
If you're unhappy most of the time, and you're indoors when the sun begins to shine, you're bogged down with responsibility. When the good sun shines, you can come out with me.
Hi, this is Mark Arnold, and welcome to Fun Ideas Podcast number 267. How do you do? The purpose of this recording is to introduce you to my new book set called Unconditionally Mad, Part 1 and Part B. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mark D. Arnold, and I am the writer of Unconditionally Mad. It's my job. My name is Mark D. Arnold, and I am the writer of Unconditionally Mad. It's my job to... I am the writer of Unconditionally Mad, and it's my job... What's so funny about that? Well, anyway, here's William M. Gaines, Harvey Kurtzman, Jack Davis, Wally Wood, Bill Elder, Al Feldstein, Norman Mingo, Kelly Freeze, Bob Clark, Frank Jacobs, Don Martin, Don Edwing, Paul Coker, Nick Meglin, Dave Berg, George Woodbridge, Mort Drucker, Al Jaffe, Dick DeBartolo, Sergio Aragones, Angelo Torres, Tom Bunk, John Ficarra, Tom Richmond, Desmond Devlin, Sam Viviano, Johnny Sampson, Bill Morrison, Susie Slab, and many more. And here's the publisher, Bear Manor Media. Available now through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Bear Manor Media. The Fun Ideas Podcast is brought to you in part by Freaky Magazine. I contribute material to every issue, so give it a try.
Hey kids, have you read Freaky? The magazine of weird humor for freaks like you. Freaky Magazine is a way-out collection of weirdo comics, kooky gags, photo funnies, social satire, and surreal collage. 52 pages of insanity in the tradition of magazines of yore like Cracked, Plop, and Zap. Special offer for Fun Ideas listeners, get a free sample copy in the mail. Made of smelly newsprint and smudgy ink the old-fashioned way. Just message your mailing address to theslowpoisoner@gmail.com. That's theslowpoisoner@gmail.com while supplies last.
Friends, have you tried Lee's Comics? Lee's Comics is better than the leading comic book store. Wait a minute. Lee's Comics is the leading comic book store, based on arbitrary standards set by Lee Hester himself.
Lee's Comics was named as one of the 21 best online dealers by popoptique.com. To shop the Lee's Comics eBay store, go to eBay and search for Lee's Comics Inc. That's LEESCOMICSINC, period. Don't forget the period. Mention the Fun Ideas Podcast when you order, and you'll receive a free bonus gift.
Hey, it's Charles Rosenay from the Monkeys Interview Show here on Monkey Mania Radio. So proud to announce the release of a brand new book called Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z. That's right, the other band besides our Monkeys who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, The Turtles, a great new book that's a discography. It's got interviews, it's got reviews, it's got everything you might want to read about. If you're a 60s fan like I am and love the Beatles and the Monkees and the Turtles, Not Just Happy Together has a front cover and a back cover by Henry Diltz, a forward by Gary Puckett, and it's published by Genius Music Books, an imprint of Genius Book Publishing, now available from www.notjust.com. NotJustHappyTogether.com. Hope you pick it up. I know you're going to love it and enjoy all the stuff about the Turtles. Thank you for listening to Monkey Mania Radio. Hey, hey.
In Fun Ideas Productions news, Unconditionally Mad Part 1 and Part B are out, as is Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM Radio to Zappa. Currently, I'm working on TV cartoons that time forgot, and a new book called The Magazine That Dared to Be Dumb, The History of Crazy Magazine. All of my books are available through Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and most are available through Bear Manor Media. The Turtles book is through Genius Publishing. On today's show, we have a guest who's been an artist and writer for such things as Plop, Crazy, Mad, Marvel's Star Comics, Harvey Comics, and Sabrina for Archie Comics. Here he is, Dave Manak. Hi, this is Mark Arnold with yet another episode of Fun Ideas Podcast, and today we're interviewing Dave Manak. I've learned the proper way. I always said Manak, but I never met you till just now. So, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be speaking with you.
Okay. And I seem to...
By the way, my name has been mispronounced like hundreds of times in my life.
Well, we will get it right, even if it's in a printed form. We'll say Manak.
You did it right.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that wraps it up. And no, anyway,
Well,
I think the first time I ever saw your name on anything was in Plop. Is that correct? Is that the very first professional work you did?
yeah, that's correct. I did sell some single panel magazine cartoons before that, but as far as comic books, yeah, it's in Plop.
Okay.
Yeah, single panels, and then I started doing stories for them.
Okay. And I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in art and comedy and comic strips and comic panels and things like that.
Well, I'm self-taught. I never really went to art school, and I got interested in art through Warner Brothers cartoons and comic strips, and then comic books. And I just, I had a talent for drawing, so I would draw the easier things first. I mean, I loved to draw the Flintstones when I was younger, and because that was easy, and I had a knack for that. And I just had kind of a natural talent that I just developed on my own. And then first I wanted to be the first thing was a comic strip artist. I love BC, I love Peanuts, of course, and all that. And that, I'm still trying to do that. But that kind of like, I got into comics, and I loved Joe Kubert's, Sergeant Rock and Enemy Ace, along with the, like Spider-Man and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was 19, I guess, and I decided to, and I was kind of doing this just on my own. I hadn't read anything about how to get into comics. I just drew up a bunch of characters and sent them to Joe Kubert, and at DC. And I'd never been to DC. Joe Kubert didn't know me, and I actually got a phone call back from him, and they said we got your work, and if you'd like to come up to the office and meet Joe, that you could do that. So I did it. I got on a bus and went to New York.
Wow.
And he had nice. It was very welcoming, and these are like probably the last time at that point. That was around 1969, 1970,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the way to break into comics at that point, because there were no Hubert schools then or anything like that, and nobody was teaching comics. So you just did it. You did it on your own. You learned from the comic book artists that were out there, and you just kind of draw what they were drawing and blah blah blah. So anyway, Joe said, okay, you show some talent and all that. You need to work on anatomy, and I was really on kind of on the path to like doing regular comics, And what he was doing, he did for a year, like once a month, he would give me like an old war script. And he said, okay, do 2-3 pages of this, do pencils of them. And I would do that. I would do that and come back to him, and then he would critique them and all that. And after about a year, or thereabouts, I mean, it's been a while, I showed him some other things I were doing, like some of my cartooning also. But before that, I went into the offices at DC. I met Murphy Anderson. Neil Adams was there. I met him and knew him, forever. We got along great. And he was in there, like, drawing covers and Joe Kubert said to someone, I don't know who it was, I don't think it was Neil, but he said, look at his work. Who does this remind you of? My work. And he said, and I'm like 20 at that point. He said, oh, that looks like Neil's work when he was 15. So I was like on the right direction. But he said, look, I showed him some of my cartooning. He said, listen, I'm going to take you and meet somebody. So he took me over to Joe Orlando, his office over there. And so that's where I met Joe Orlando. And I had moved to New York. Then I decided to move to New York. And I was doing some production work for DC, retouching old comics and, just to get them ready for reprint because they didn't have the kind of photography they have now.
Right.
But anyway, I was retouching them. And Joe had started Plop. And I got to be friendly with him just by talking to him. And I showed him some single panel cartoons that I wrote and drew. And he said, okay, yeah. So I had my first, I think it was like Plop 6 or 7. I was having some single panel cartoons in. And he said, you want to try a story? And I said, yeah, sure. At that time, and I'd never done anything like that before, but at that time, the style I had then, I loved National Lampoon, and there was Charles Rodriguez was one of the artists, and I loved his work. It was just stark and funny. So I was kind of like doing that kind of style, but it was kind of like a half Rodriguez and half Sergio Aragones. That's kind of the way it came out. I wasn't, trying to imitate them. That's just the way it came out. And so then I did the first Plop stories I did were my first work in comics. And so I did like 3 or 4 of those, and Joe, and I started getting to know Joe really well professionally, and we'd hang out and laugh and stuff because we were kind of like from the same ilk. And what we would do, he had a lot of mystery. He had the mystery books at that time, House of Mystery, Ghost, Unexpected,
right?
And he was what he would do for Plop. He would take some of the old mystery stories inventory that they probably weren't going to be able to use. He got me in on this. We would rewrite them as humor stories. And I tell you, I learned so much, and he taught me so much. Mentor is thrown around a lot, but Joe truly was my mentor in learning comics and about comic art. And I just had a wonderful relationship with him until he passed. But so that's how we got into Plop, and did that for till that went out of existence. So.
Now, didn't you also? They did like little gag pages in House of Mystery and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I was doing those too. Yeah, I was after that. I was. I guess it was after Plop. But anyway, at that point, my style was, I was experimenting with my style. So I didn't keep the same style that I started out with in Plop. And I asked Joe, you think I should like experiment with my style? And he said, yeah, sure. So that's why it kind of evolved, or it didn't stay the same. And it was really to my advantage because I was able to do a lot more with my art after that and all the things I did. But yeah, I was writing and drawing writing, penciling, and inking the single page gags for the mystery books. I did them for the war books.
Oh yeah.
And so I loved doing that. It was like I was able to write and draw, so that was fun.
Right. Now you're mentioning DC all this time. Did you ever consider Marvel or any other publisher at this time? I know later you worked for them, of course, but
no, I didn't. I didn't know anything about Marvel at that point. I didn't know. What I would do is I would come into DC and I would hang out. The freelancers would come in and they could just hang out there and and Gap, and because they would come in to turn in work and then we would just like hang out in the hallways and talk. And so I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody at Marvel. I didn't know anything about them. So that's why I just I was a DC guy. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I did the single pages, single page gags, and we're talking about Crazy magazine, right, today?
Well, yeah, but I also wanted to ask about Plop and Mad and a couple other things too, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, I'll tell you, I still have a couple of Crazy magazines here that I haven't looked at in a while, and I don't remember this. On how I started with Crazy, because apparently I did that like in the like mid later 70s, 77 I think. Yeah. I was doing some work for them, and I looked at the editor was Paul Lakin, right. And I don't remember Paul Lakin. I don't know. I don't know him. So
well, he never was in the office. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Well, that's why I don't know.
Yeah, he was. I forgot if he was in New Jersey or somewhere else, Long Island or something. But he lived there with his two children. He was a widow, and he basically just phoned it in, as it were. So he'd call all the people. I need a story about this. I need a story about that. But you don't know how you got started with them, right? Or is that what you're saying?
No, I don't. I really don't. I'm guessing. I'm going to guess that I did know Alan Kupperberg somewhat, because I know he did humor work, and I would see him at DC now and then, and I may have been chatting with him and asking him what he was doing, and he may have suggested that I go get in touch with Crazy, because he was doing some work for them. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I just don't remember how the initial contact came. But I did do work for them, so I found out somehow. Yeah. And but because I was looking through it, I don't know if I knew any of the other artists or writers there except Alan.
Well, later you got like a steady gig where you did like 3 one-page things, kind of like Don Martin, and that was when Larry Hama was in there. So.
Yeah. Do you want to know about that?
Sure. Yeah.
I did that early. That work for Crazy, and like I said, I would get assignments. I guess I was dealing with like an assistant editor or something then. Yeah. Anyway, about after I was doing all the single page gags for DC, and like Sergio Aragonis would come in because he was doing work for Joe, and they knew each other from Mad, and I got to know Sergio a little bit, and so where they're talking, we're out in the bullpen area, which was in the middle of this big white hallway at DC, and so we're talking about stuff and all that, and I think it was probably Sergio or Joe saying, you should go over to Mad, try to sell some things to Mad. And they were pushing me to do it. I never probably would have done it on my own. And they said, yeah, go over there. You can do that. Go ahead. So I did. I did. I worked up some things. And lo and behold, I think it was like the first time I went over, I did I don't know if it was like an interior page or the cover that I sold. One of my first works was a cover to them, and which I didn't get credit for inside. As a writer, but it was the elevator gag where there's 2 elevators, and there's one regular elevator guy inside, and then there's Alfred is going sideways. He's standing sideways, and So that was mine. I knew Jack Ricard did it. He did a great job. And why I didn't get credit for it, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you a story on that, and it's frustrating for me. So I did a Mad book. I also did a Cracked book. So here I am doing a Crazy book. So that's where I'm just going down the line doing them all. But I used Frank Jacobs' Mad cover-to-cover book for reference, and in his book it said that you didn't write that particular gag. And so I used that and put it in my book about Mad. Well, Doug Guilford posted on Facebook, and I think it was through someone else, oh, well, since Dave Manak actually wrote the gag, I'm going to change my website. But it was too late for me to change my book, so it says the incorrect name. I forgot who it was attributed to, but it's frustrating because I had all this time that I could have changed it.
Well, you know, it's something, talking about Guilford, I just recently, the last few months, I was looking at his site for some other reference for the writer on a Spy versus Spy,
Yeah.
And I got it. I didn't know who the writer was on one of my spies I did. So I found it on his site. Mm-hmm. And then I actually got in touch with him because he had the elevator cover there. And I said, I'm the one who actually did that cover. Mm-hmm. And so he said, oh, thank you for letting me know, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know how that happened, but I actually saw my friend Michael Gallagher. He sent this to me years ago, 10 years ago. There was the sketch of my sketch that I did for that cover was floating around somewhere on the internet. I've looked for it and I can't find it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I ever signed the front of it, like put my name on it, but I always put it on the back. And so anyway, I did see the sketch that I did for that cover, and but anyway, I just want to let you know I did that. That was the first ones, and then I did a couple back covers, and I did a couple gags that Don Martin did, and that was kind of like a Peter out. But what I was doing, I started writing like kind of interior material, like the Don Martin gags were like the three gags, and I would take it over to Mad, and Jerry DiFuccio was my kind of like he was my screener, and he wasn't buying anything anymore from me. So I said, well, can I take these somewhere else? And and they said, yeah, you can take it like to one of the competitors, like crazy, but you can't use your name, and because we don't want Mad writers to be working for the competitors. So that's how I came up with the name was Kovacs for the crazy ones, for the three gag pages I did.
Right.
And so that I had no problem. I think I started doing a few of them, just not even showing them Mad at that point, and just taking them over to Larry because Mad just wasn't buying any more of my material. And so I would go into Larry, and I'd known Larry. I'd met him before,
right?
And I liked Larry a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'd come in, and he would, lo and behold, I'd show them to him, and he would laugh out loud. Every one that I took in, and he loved them. So he bought it. I showed him, and those things. I loved doing those because I was writing and drawing and inking and putting washes on, and so. That was a great, great time, to do that. So that's how that all happened. That evolved.
Now, regarding the name Kovacs, was that a tribute to Ernie Kovacs, or where did you get that name?
Yeah, it was basically. My heritage is I'm Slovak, and that's a Slovak name.
Oh, okay.
And that's from that area, Austria-Hungary, Slovakia.
Got it.
And I did love Ernie Kovacs because of his zaniness, and so. That's why that name came about. I thought it was kind of a cute, kind of like.
But you didn't fool me. I said that's Dave Manak.
How'd you know that?
I don't know. I just kind of figured your style, and I said, that looks like you did. You say you changed a lot, but I don't know. You didn't change that much. I could tell it was you. And you had been in Crazy before, so so.
Well, my first stuff in Crazy is nothing like that style.
Yeah.
But I did some of it is
Anyway.
some of this kind of might be reminiscent of some of the one-page gags they did for DC. I mean, there might be some elements of that. So.
Yeah. I don't know. It just fit right in, and I said, okay. And at the time, I didn't know if Manak was your pseudonym or if Kovacs. That is what I didn't know. So I go, maybe he's writing under his real name now. I don't know, because that happens too sometimes.
No, that's the only reason I did that, because Matt wouldn't let me. And how that came about. One of the ways it came about was that Don Edwing, he sold I think it was a back cover to Mad, and he forgot that he sold it to Mad.
Oop.
And so he took Duck Edwing.
Yep.
He forgot that he sold it to Mad, and so he sold it to either Cracked. It's probably Cracked, and they came out on the same day.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they were on the newsstand in the same day, and Mad blew a cork, But they valued Edwing so much they let it go. So, but that's one of the reasons they just didn't want Mad people working for the competitors.
Right. Well, I've known other people that changed their names. Even Lou Silverstone changed his name so he could write different things. And the funniest one for me is Barry Dutter. He changed his name so subtly to Larry Sutter.
That's so funny.
Anyway, but now at Mad, you did get in also with Spy vs. Spy. Was that, or did you just do the comic strip? I can't remember if you were doing the ones in the magazine or if you did only the comic strip ones.
Yeah, I did. I started it was around 93, I think, and I started doing the interior. Trying to imitate Proyas as much as I could.
Okay. Because I know Bob Clark did them for a while too, so I didn't know if you were doing them at the same time or if he did it first or what. What was?
No, he had stopped doing it, and then I didn't. Then that's when I think Joe Orlando at that point he was. I think DC had Mad came under DC's control,
right?
Somehow, and Joe became a vice president or executive vice president at DC, and he was kind of in charge of Mad at that point. He was kind of not their boss, but he had they had there was some kind of thing going on where it was anyway, I think Joe recommended me, and Jeanette Kahn liked the idea, I guess. So I did some samples for that for the Spy vs. Spy, and I got it. And apparently, for the next 3 years, the guys at Mad, they liked what I was doing, and they kept telling me that I was whenever I asked them about anything about me, how long was I going to be doing this? They said, "Oh, you're the guy. You're doing it. You're the guy, man." And until they fired me without telling me that I was fired, I had to learn through the art director.
Wow.
And so that was kind of. And then they hired. That's because Nick Meglin. I don't know if he knew Peter Cooper or what, but then they did that whole different direction with the Spies.
Right. I met him before, and he Peter Cooper almost has a similar parallel career to you. It's like he worked in a lot of the same places you did, which is interesting. Yeah.
I like Cooper's work a lot. I never met him, but
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of like a shocker though, when he started doing that style of Spy. But that's okay.
Yeah, I did interview him, I did not interview him. I got an interview of him from another source. I think it was Journal of Madness, and they had interviewed him, and he talked about how it's this elaborate way he was doing Spy versus Spy. It's airbrush and everything like that. It's like,
yeah, sure.
Because yours was straight just pen and ink, right? It's just standard stuff like that.
I did just like Proyas did it. Yeah, even with the red overlays to indicate where the grays were going to be. Mm-hmm. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was great. I loved doing that. That was great. It's one of my.
Now, did you write your stuff, or was Duck Edwing with you on some of those too?
Edwing wrote most of them, but
Okay.
they would come in here or there, like other, now and then there'd be another writer. They would buy something from somebody else. But surprisingly enough, they've never bought any of them from me.
Interesting.
I would submit gags, and they would just like, they were like, I think they figured they have the cream of the crop of the whole world, so that they can just be very picky about what they do.
Yeah.
They did, so.
Interesting.
Anyway, so I was happy to be in that group for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on, like with the comic strip, I did that, and that was I thought and this is nothing about Edwing, but I didn't think the writing was as up to par in terms of what the original writing was in Spy. And I had a meeting with Nick Meglin about this,
Mm-hmm.
and Charlie Kochman was like my kind of like editor on that, and he kept things rolling. He was my contact, and I loved working with Charlie. He was great, and we had this meeting. And I said to Nick about the Spies. I said, this is before they were still going strong. The strip was still going, and I said, there's the only difference is like the Spies are getting blown up in every every strip. I'm saying this didn't happen in the originals. I mean, they would get clobbered, but they weren't like getting blown to smithereens every strip.
Right.
And but he said, well, we know what we're doing. That's so they it was their thing, and I accepted that. That was no problem. But I thought it would be it would have lasted longer if we had more. If we stuck to the original kind of like feeling the Spies. So.
Yeah.
Not to disparage anybody, but I'm just artistically. That's all.
It is kind of amazing, though, that it kept going, because you think it would have ended with Proteus's retirement or death or whatever. And,
yeah.
But I guess they saw something there, just like with the Fold-In. Johnny Sampson does it now.
Okay.
Instead of Jaffe, of course.
Yeah.
But just curious also, other things you worked on, and this is why I said Peter Cooper, didn't you do a stint? It was either at Harvey Comics in the later years, or maybe it was Marvel Star Comics, or maybe both. I don't remember. I know you were at some of those licensed comic books and things like that, doing some of the work.
Both.
Oh, so I was right. Because Cooper worked for Harvey as well at one point, and I think he did a little bit for Star, but not too much. And then took over the Spy versus Spy, so that's why I was mentioning that. So,
well, when I was like long before Spy versus Spy, I was on staff at DC for 3 years,
right,
like between 81 and 84, and when I left there because I wanted to start writing, and I got to know Ernie Colon when he was at DC. He did some work for me when I was on the mystery books, and then he was on staff, and we lived kind of in the same neighborhood, so we wouldn't hang out, but we would like walk home now and then, and so I got to know Ernie pretty well,
mm-hmm.
and he knew he was always sending people into. Sid Jacobson had started Star Comic.
Right.
I was editor at Star Comics at that point. And Ernie's always sending people over to him. And he said, go over see Sid. And so, I went and started writing comics at that point. And because I hadn't drawn any regular comics. And, since Plop, and that was it was just only stories here and there. But I went over and I said, yeah, I want to start writing. So I did. I started writing, and we did what's called a visual script. It was the same thing they did at Harvey,
mm-hmm.
where you would do like a storyboard of each page, and you do if you're a cartoonist and a writer, it makes it better because it makes it easier for the artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all the scripts for Sid, storyboard wise. So I did Planetary, Top Dog. I did Ewoks, which I like doing very much.
Mm-hmm.
I did Droids. I did a 3-part retelling of Star Wars told from the droids' point of view. Like I changed the camera around, and just did it from like them observing the action instead of us seeing the droids, like it was. I just didn't want to redo the movie, so I did it, turned it around like that. And Ernie did that. Ernie Cologne drew those, that 3. Then when I was doing droids, John Romita was doing droids, and he was loving it because I would give him the storyboard that we're from, and I was pretty good at doing that, doing layouts, and also everybody that I did a script for, they just followed my layouts, and that's what I did when Michael Gallagher was writing. He was writing Alf and and Sonic, and it was so easy to just use the storyboard thing for a guide, that storyboard script. So. But I did, and then Sid got back somehow. Harvey changed hands or something, and Sid was in charge of it again. Yeah. And so then I did some work. I did Wendy, and I think I did a few Richie Riches, and so a few of those. Yeah.
Right. And did you work with I'll just name drop a few, Warren Kremer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Warren was magnificent. He was just magnificent. And
Howard Post. Howard Post was one.
Oh, yeah, I know Howie. Yeah. Howie was great. I loved Howie. And everybody did. But he was a little late sometimes on handing in his stories. But he was fun. He was a fun guy. Yeah, I knew Howie. And it was interesting about Warren. When I was there, the 3 or 4 years I was writing, before I went back to art, he had a stroke, and he couldn't use his. I don't know if he's right-handed. He couldn't draw with his right hand, so he was really depressed. Right. But Sid said he can draw just as well with his left hand, but he doesn't want to do it. Yeah. And so that was kind of like the end of Warren's time, but he was magnificent. I loved him. And Ernie kind of when he was working at Harvey, he really worked the same way Warren did, so I don't know if he picked that up. But Ernie was so versatile too, with his artwork. So. Right. Yeah, so I've been around. I've bopped around quite a bit. And
yeah. Because that's another book that I wrote. I was always the Harvey guy for years, and that's
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny that you're mentioning my Harvey book, but I've never interviewed you till now. So it's like, well, I need to revise my books now.
I wasn't doing it. I didn't do the Harvey material for a long time.
Right.
Maybe it was a year or two, but I love them. I mean, when I was a kid, I drew I painted a picture of Casper on the chain guard on my bike when I was a kid, long before I was anywhere near the comics.
Now, did you ever work for Archie or anything else? I don't remember that you did.
Well, Archie was doing Sonic. They bought the license to do Sonic.
Okay. Okay.
I did that stint with them for 3 or 4 years. I was the artist on Sonic.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do the regular characters, but for some reason,
I
don't know if it's just Victor or Victor Gorelick or they didn't like the way I was drawing the characters, and I'm saying I was going by Dan. What's his name?
It was Dan DiCarlo, and later Dan
DiCarlo.
Parent.
Dan DiCarlo. I was using his stuff as reference, but they were picking it apart. I didn't know why, because I thought it looked pretty close, and so they just didn't like the way I did the regular characters for some reason. It's a mystery to me.
And they wouldn't even let you. They wouldn't even let you write on those.
I wasn't trying to write. I was back in art. I started doing art again. When I was, I did about 3 years of writing for Star, and then I think I said, look, I can make like twice as much money doing artwork. So I said, can I, try some artwork? And I think the first things I did were, Heathcliff and that book that they had. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how I got back into art, doing that. And then after that, it was Alf. I did that.
Yeah, it was Alpha's one I remember.
Yeah.
And interesting. So you just kind of volley back and forth as as the wind blows, as it were.
Well, yeah, just like looking for work and like the kind of work I like to do.
Yeah.
And I really didn't do any more writing after that. But not that I still like to write, but I don't have a chance, as much. So I'm kind of working on my own projects now. So.
Okay, a few other questions, just because it's just random stuff. When I do this, I jump around.
Sure.
So,
yeah, no problem. No.
Yeah. So you did do those strips for Crazy for about 2.5 years or something, and then at some point you left, and they got Bobby London to replace you. Was there a reason why you left at that point?
I think it was just because I got on staff at DC. I think that's the only reason.
Oh, okay. And
I mean, that's what I recall, kind of. Not that I didn't have any kind of falling out with them or anything.
Yeah.
I think just something else got interfered with it. That's all.
Okay. Because I just noticed that just suddenly, oh, well, Bobby London's doing him now, but I know him too. He did Dirty Ducks. So, okay.
Yeah. Right.
But any other things that you worked at that I may not have remembered? I mean, I seem to remember seeing you pop up at all the different comics, because I tend to not be a superhero guy, so I'm like, I read anything but, pretty much. So yeah,
I was like, not that I recall right now. That's about it. Oh, I did Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I drew that for Archie also, and yeah, the only reason probably the only reason I didn't get into the superheroes thing, because I didn't know anatomy well enough, and you can't fake anatomy, and then, or else they come out looking like Beavis and Butthead,
Right.
So, I think that's about it.
Did you ever try out for Cracked, or did you just have enough on your plate at all the other places?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody at Cracked, and I just didn't go there for some reason. I don't know why. I just I could have. And why we do things or don't do things.
Yeah.
I guess just different little jobs were coming along for me, and I got kind of lucky when I started drawing again. I was doing nicely with the writing. I mean, I had plenty of writing for at Star, but it was just like it just wasn't paying enough. It was like I made twice as much a page, for the art, so just penciling. I started working on a graphic novel with Michael Gallagher. We've been working on that for quite some time, and we just need that final push to get it done. So,
what can you disclose what it's about?
It's post-apocalyptic.
Ooh, that's different. Is it humorous though?
It's not a funny
Okay.
thing. It's more adventure, and if there's any humor that enters in it, it's a kind of like in the vein of the old Warner Brother movies, where there's adventure and there's like funny stuff in it, So it's like, hopefully it'll be done soon. So I'll get in touch with you when it's done.
Sounds good. Okay. Now, in the meantime, what was the last thing you really worked on consistently? Was it Sabrina, or what was that I would have known about, or was it Mad?
Yeah, it was Sabrina and the Mad strip. They kind of ended up kind of at the same time.
Okay. Because I haven't really seen your name around, but it's not for looking or trying not to look. I just haven't. I mean, did you take a break from freelancing, or just?
Kind of. Yeah. Well, when I stopped that, then I was working. We started on the graphic novel, and I was working on that pretty heavily. But yeah, as far as making money at it, I mean, I wasn't. That kind of dried up for me a bit. I mean, I wanted to work for Archie, but that whole thing with the whole controversy there, I got labeled as being in that and they just wouldn't even answer my emails. So,
Interesting.
I know, I couldn't believe it.
I wonder if they'd take you again, like if you tried again, just because Victor's not there anymore. I don't know.
I always got along with Victor. There was no big deal, but I think it was just because there was there was like a mix-up. I was like begging them for work, and they it was I was just disappointed that because I did so much work for them, and I was never like stiff them or anything on deadlines.
Because I know they still do new stories in the digests and stuff like that. So in the traditional styles. So anyway.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't mean to be sounding like sour grapes. I'm just saying that's part of that's the business, and and that happens.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm just always curious. It's like some people think, oh yeah, they actually do have a grudge. I'm not saying you do. And then some other people, never thought about it. I moved on, whatever, and that's fine too. It's like everybody has their own life to lead, and these.
I'll tell you, if there were opportunities for me to keep doing the type of things I was doing, I would have just kept doing it. I think, but that it's like with not having Archie as a place to get work, I didn't know where else to go.
Right.
So I guess I could have found places, but I just wasn't. I wasn't there.
Right, and unfortunately, most of the places you used to work have all dried up or gone, which is really sad. Nothing you could do about it, but
Well, I'll tell you that just out of comics, there are plenty of other opportunities for artists and cartoonists, outside of comics. So, I'm working on some things right now, and
that's cool.
We'll trying to keep busy.
Now, do you, apart from working on the graphic novel, are you working on any other projects, or do you go to conventions or anything like that?
I don't go to conventions. I mean, it's not that I don't like the fans. I love being with the fans, but it's just like it's a little more kind of difficult for me to travel these days. Not physically and all that, just the whole thing of traveling. It's like, that's all. I mean, I'm not sure about it. It's just, that's the only reason. That's all I can say.
No, that's fine. I'm not a big traveler either. I'm actually going to England in August, and it's like, that's a massive undertaking for me, it seems like, but other people are like, oh yeah, I go all the time, and it's like, okay, but I'll have fun. I just am like, my dad's the one that loves to travel. I've always been more stay at home, but anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too, yeah.
But,
so.
All right. I'm trying to think if I had any other questions about things. I guess, what were all the different publishers like? I'll keep it easy. So, how was DC versus Marvel versus Archie as a place to, or Harvey as a place to work?
I found all of them like pretty nice. I mean, I didn't have trouble with any of the publishers. All my editors. I mean, even like Victor was a little like he put an act like he was tough, but he wasn't that tough. Victor was actually a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I got along with everybody, and I didn't have trouble with anybody. I didn't know that many people at Marvel except Sid. I knew Shooter a little bit, and then Tom DeFalco, and I knew when I was there, and I met when I was doing the Crazy work. I think the last year or so when I was there, Marie Severin was the art director on it, and that's the only time I met Marie, when I would go in there, and she was very cheerful and like welcoming to me. And then she actually did most of the inking on the Alf work that I did, and I never saw her in the offices, but it was that was a treat to have her ink that. So
that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I got along with everybody. I mean, because I liked being in the whole atmosphere, there, and yeah, it's like I can't recall any kind of any difficulties I've had, in comics.
That's cool.
I mean, I have one regret. Comics. You want to hear it?
Sure. What is your one regret?
And I'll tell you, I don't have many regrets. Everyone I knew, all the artists I knew, writers, this is when before I worked on staff at DC and after, they all had sketchbooks, and they would go around getting people, all the big stars doing, sketches in their books. Mm-hmm. They would ask me to do sketches in their books. I never had a sketchbook.
Wow.
I knew Kubert. I knew Orlando. I have a self-portrait. I have a portrait that Joe did of me, like a sketch portrait. That's the only thing I have from anybody. But I knew Kubert and Neil Adams. All the guys, all these top guys. And I never had a drawing from them.
Wow.
I know other friends of mine who are like artists or in production. They have big sketchbooks with every famous comic book, artist. So that's my only regret. It's a tiny one, but just think.
Yeah, but I guess the good part about all this is that you get to work for these people, meet these people.
That's exactly right. That's what I say. I say I knew them. Just like. But I got along with everybody. Yeah, it was fun. It was really a lot of fun.
I mean, for me. I've met a lot of the people you're saying, but it was just like, hi, can you sign my book or whatever? Hey, great, you've done great work. Thanks. See ya. Bye. And that's it. It's like, and it's like, okay. You don't get to really know them, or work for them or anything like that,
When I was at DC, I started out on the mystery books. I worked, actually there's like a double office. I worked as Dick Giordano's assistant editor on the Batman stuff. So I was the one who took it, back and forth to production and all that stuff, got things in order. Mm-hmm. And also was editing the mystery books, which really was a lot of fun for me. And I took to it it's a good euphemism. Like a what takes the what?
Right.
Which takes the water.
That takes the water.
Anyway, but I had noticed when I can't remember who I took it over from. I think it might have been Jack Harris. I'm not sure. But I noticed that the first thing I saw was that on these mystery books, and they had told me that probably the mystery books don't have that long, to go. They're kind of going to be phased out. But I noticed that Joe Kubert had done a cover. Mm-hmm. And I said, holy crap. So I got in touch with Joe. I said, Joe, do you want to do some covers for me on the mystery books? He said, yeah, sure. Because he would come into the office. I don't know if he had an office at that point. He may have, or whether he was just mostly working from home or editing from home and all that. But he said, yeah, sure. So I would do layouts for all the covers that I handed out. I would do layouts. And again, most of the artists, they have free reign to do anything they want to do, but they followed my layouts pretty closely. I don't have any of those, unfortunately. So Joe Kubert did probably 5 or 6 covers for me, which is thrilling. I mean, and Ernie Colon did a couple. Mm-hmm. So I got Joe Orlando did one too. Yeah, he did one for me. Mm-hmm. So I had my pick of guys, to ask to do this, because they love doing covers, and they were special at it. They were special to have them. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little side story there.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of the way you got your sketchbook. You had them do a cover, but it wasn't personalized to you. But yeah.
You're right. No, but just knowing all those people are so fantastic. How many people get to do that? What I've done.
I think everyone you mentioned. I think I've met at least once, except for I never met Warren Kremer, even though I always wanted to. And I never met Joe Orlando, strangely enough, because I don't think he went to shows and stuff like that. But Kubert was at a show. I used to talk to Ernie Colon on the phone. Met Sid a couple times, Sid Jacobson, and things like that. So,
well, Sid was kind of after started writing, he was like, I mean, I was kind of a good natural writer because I was such a big like movie buff, and I really, I was just always good at in school. I always got A's like in English and all that, and it wasn't like I didn't read novels that much, but I read a lot of magazines and things, and so shorter things, and but anyway, yeah, that's kind of like a brief, look into my life.
Yeah. Also, I did interview Paul Lakin before he passed away, and I also interviewed Larry Hama, so it's like, yeah, I've kind of got chased around your career without actually interviewing you till now, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, so.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you, too. We'll have to do it again sometime.
All right.
About something. I don't know what. The next frontier.
Yes, exactly. Well, let me know when your graphic novel is available, and then, we can probably chat about that at that time, so.
Yep, okay. Thanks a lot, Mark. I really appreciate it. It's really great talking to you.
All right. Well, I'll wrap things up, and we'll let it go at this point. We've been talking with Dave Manak, and he's had a very, very varied career with Plop and Crazy and Mad, Harvey Comics and Archie Comics. But we were talking a little bit about everything, and it was a pleasure having you as a guest. This is Mark Arnold, and we will see you next time on the Fun Ideas Podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Dave Manak, for being my special guest. Remember, you can always watch the video version of this episode on YouTube. Episode number 268 will be coming soon. If you would like to comment and or be a guest on this podcast, please drop me a line at funideas.mark@gmail.com. Become a free subscriber or a paying Patreon at Mark Arnold Fun Ideas Productions. If everyone listening just contributed $1 a month, it would be a tremendous help in continuing the production of my books and this podcast. The opening and closing music for this podcast is provided by Elmo and Elmo. This has been the Fun Ideas Podcast. This has been Mark Arnold speaking. This episode is copyright 2024 Fun Ideas Productions. Thank you and good night.
If you're unhappy most of the time, and you're indoors when the sun begins to shine, you're